Deborah Walsh, silent, no more. Silent, no more. Deborah Walsh.
Mr. Toastmaster, fellow Toastmasters, and honored guests. I failed in a responsibility I had as a parent. I failed to teach my children where they came from. In 8th grade, my daughter had to give a talk on the Holocaust. And she did what all her classmates did. She Googled Holocaust and she found a story to tell. Well, as we come from a family of Holocaust survivors, and ours wasn't the story she chose, I realized I had not honored my family's fight for life. And I'd not given my daughter the grounding that comes of knowing your history. Honestly, I was ashamed of myself. As a child, I don't recall ever hearing my parents' stories directly from them, but I grew up always knowing what happened. I don't know how I knew, I just knew. And thinking back on it, I must have heard bits from my cousins and pieced it together. Since my father was really young at the time, his family discounted his experiences and memories as inconsequential. And it was his older brother and sister that carried the story forward. They gave video testimonials to the Jewish Federation, and they spoke extensively at the schools. My father did not speak. But this wasn't due to his inability to remember. His experience in surviving was far different than that of his siblings. And he'd been silenced many years ago. My father and his family came from Trochenbrod, Poland, a small Jewish town, 3,000 people, of which only 40 survived. 10 of those were my family. When the Nazis came to Trochenbrod, they turned it into a Jewish ghetto, meaning they consolidated forcibly everybody into a small area of town to better control them. My grandmother realized they weren't safe, and thankfully she had the courage, the strength, and the luck to get the family out. My dad escaped from the ghetto with his mother, his brother, his sister, into a nearby forest. And they met up with other family members that had escaped earlier. In total, there were 5 adults and 5 children, all under the age of 10. My dad and his cousin Fran were the youngest. My dad was the loudest. He cried a lot. And this posed a real threat to the survival of the group. So his grandfather took a strap and threw it over a tree branch and hung my father by the neck. The others were holding back his mother, but she managed to break free and cut my father loose. My dad remembers this. He was 3 years old. Another time, his uncle kicked him down a well and left him to drown. His mother saved him yet again. My father also remembers this. Silence. I think of my children at 3 years old, how completely innocent and trusting they are. And what happened to my dad breaks my heart. I understand that people in impossible circumstances can do unthinkable things to survive, and I know my father understands this as an adult, but nothing will heal that child inside him that was so deeply damaged by the trauma and betrayal he experienced. I believe this is why my father doesn't speak. In June, I traveled with my dad to Boston, and for the first time ever, heard him tell his story. At times it was really difficult for him to get through it, and it was difficult for me to see him in so much pain. But I walked away from that trip with a great feeling of responsibility. A responsibility to speak on behalf of my father, whose voice had been silenced. A responsibility to honor my family by telling the story not just to my children, but publicly, so that the lessons and events of the Holocaust are never forgotten. And I came to, afterwards I called my father about this decision. I let him know that I intended to contact the Ventura schools and let them know that I wanted to volunteer to speak on the Holocaust as a daughter of a survivor. And the most unexpected thing happened. 2 hours later, my father sent me a text saying that he would be there while I spoke, and that afterwards, together we would stand and answer questions. I can't even begin to tell you all the feelings this brought up inside me, but what I was left with was a great deal of pride in my father for being willing to set aside his pain to tell the story and the good that will come of it. My purpose in sharing with you how I came to this decision is to let you know how important it is to share your life lessons. Reflecting on and learning from the lessons of the past can change the course of the future. And I believe that sharing your important personal experiences can serve to inspire, educate, and shape the beliefs and actions of future generations to make the world a better place.
Please remain silent while the judges finalize their ballots.